Welcome to Beth's Happy Home. Today we're going to make a cake that's perfect for one of the desserts for Thanksgiving, but it's a little bit untraditional. It's called a California cake, and that's because it's full of fruits and nuts. It's a very rich cake, and it's got a lot of different ingredients, but I think that when you try it, you will say that it's worth it. Some of the people that have tried it say this is the best cake they've ever had. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to start with 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. Nothing special about this, it's just plain old white flour. And then we're going to add ½ cup of cocoa powder, unsweetened cocoa powder. Stir those together just so that they're blended. And then if it clumps a little bit, if the cocoa powder is clumped a little bit, you can break those up so that there are no big clumps. Just real quick. Then 2¼ cups of white sugar. And if you want to substitute brown sugar and get a little richer, old-fashioned taste, you can do that. It will still work well. You can play with this recipe, it's pretty forgiving. So after you've got those dry ingredients in, you're going to add a teaspoon, just a teaspoon, that's more like a tablespoon, of baking soda. I'm pretty good with my measurements in my hand, so forgive me for not using a measuring spoon. And a teaspoon of salt. Never leave the salt out of a sweet dish. Mix those together a little bit so that it's pretty well blended. You'll get to the point of it being blended in the end anyway. So next, 2 cups of sweetened coconut flakes. 1. And this phase, you're just going to dump it all on top of those dry ingredients. 2 cups of coconut. 1 cup of chopped walnuts, 1 cup of crushed pineapple that's been drained, and 1½ cups of mashed ripe bananas, very ripe, so that they're nice and sweet. We're going to toss in 3 eggs. And after we put the eggs in there, we're going to do 1½ cups of vegetable oil. I always use canola if I'm not, when I'm using oil in a baking recipe. If I'm doing it on the stovetop, I use olive oil because they are the most nutritious oils. Canola being about second in the nutritious category for oils after olive oil, and that's excluding walnut oil and avocado oil and all those more exotic oils. And then 1 cup of raisins or craisins, and I happen to have craisins on hand, dried cranberries that have been sweetened, so I'm going to use those today. I especially like those in this recipe. And last of all, 1 tablespoon of vanilla. This is a Mexican vanilla that is nice and rich, and it is my favorite kind, La Vencedora. I buy it for, it's about $10 or $15 for a quart of it on eBay or Amazon. So we've got all those ingredients added in there, and now we're just going to stir them up. Even though there are a lot of ingredients, it's a simple cake to make, and it is very satisfying. Even though pie is kind of the traditional recipe for Thanksgiving, every time I have some kind of a chocolate offering, it goes really well. People choose that to go with their pie. since Thanksgiving is the one day where you can choose as many desserts as you want to indulge in. That's my rule. So you can see it's a heavy, rich batter. And you just want to get it well mixed in, well mixed together. But it doesn't need to be beaten up particularly. Just stirred together. Yeah, all the dry is absorbed and it's mixed together really well. Well enough anyway. So now I'm going to treat a bundt pan. This is a real heavy duty cast aluminum bundt pan. I'm going to spray it really, really thoroughly because bundt pans like to stick. And in fact, I'm going to be so careful that I'm going to add some flour after I spray it, just in case, so that all those little nooks and crannies will release the cake really well. Just put the cake batter into the cake pan and fill it about 2/3 from the top. And now you can see I've got more batter than this pan will really hold. So I have another pan handy here. I'm going to spray it. This is just a little short pan. I'll put that one in there. Those are ready to go into the oven, but I'm going to let them sit for about 5 minutes before I actually put them into the oven. So in 5 minutes, I'll pop them into my 350-degree oven, and then I'll show you what they look like when they come out. Okay, I've got this all covered with frosting. Now I'm going to clean up the plate, and I'm going to just show you how to do a little decorative top with the frosting. So you take a triangle of parchment paper and you hold this end like this and turn it over on its back side like that. And then match it up, just make a little ear with the point of the triangle, and then wrap the other side around and pull it up like that, and then you have a cone. Put a staple in the top of the cone, and then you're going to cut off the tip so that you have it like that, and then drop a frosting tip in the bottom so that about 1/2 inch of the tip shows out the front. Then here comes this stiffer frosting that I took out of the bowl before I thinned it with the extra water. So load that into your cone. Of course, it's fine to use the ready-made decorating cones. You can get them made out of vinyl or whatever, and I may have this one overfilled a little bit. I tend to do that. You fold down the top. Squeeze it down into the tip. There it goes. Now, because this cake had broken apart, I am going to just put some decorative stars around the top. To pretty it up a little bit because it doesn't look as smooth as I would like it to. And just to add a little bit of extra flair, kind of pretty like this. Little rosettes. And that's all there is to this little process. You can use it on any type of a cake, obviously. Whoops, that one didn't look too great, but we'll cut that piece first. Okay, so I've got it all touched up so that those sins of the broken cake are hidden pretty well. Hopefully you won't have those sins to hide. For the sake of presentation, I'm going to add a few fresh flowers to the plate. These are zinnias. Those are petunias. Fresh flowers are the very easiest thing to decorate cakes with, and I use them generally if I'm doing a wedding cake or whatever. If I am baking a wedding cake and it falls apart the way that that one did, I would start over again. But for the purposes of this, it's perfectly fine, and you're going to have wonderful results, even if it does break up a little bit coming out of the bundt pan. So there, it looks really pretty. When you go to serve it, let me show you what it looks like inside. I'm going to cut it down through. It's got all that fruit and nuts in it, and so you kind of need a serrated knife to cut through the coconut, and so it doesn't pull it apart as you slice it. This will easily serve 15 people, and I promise you that you will get at least 10 compliments on how wonderful this cake is. If you don't, I want you to put it in the comment section and complain, because I have never served it that people didn't just rave about it. So that's what it looks like. It's rich and moist and dense and wonderful. And I think I'll prove it to you by tasting it, even though I know perfectly well what it tastes like. It is fabulous. I promise. Make this cake and you will get rave reviews. If you'd like to join us so that you don't miss any of the fun, subscribe. Join us for keeps.